What's up, lovers of whiskey and watchers of YouTube? I'm the Malt Activist. Thank you for clicking through to this channel. This is your 5 whiskey challenge. Before we begin, a big shout out to first-time viewers. Thank you for clicking through to this channel. If whiskey is your thing, then this channel is the one for you. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, all of the above, none of the above, whatever it is. We're just happy that you're here. To my returning viewers, thank you so much for hanging around and being an inspiration always. And to my YouTube members and Patreon gang, you guys are awesome. Without you, this channel would be absolutely nothing. Now, on to the challenge. Before I begin, I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays and a Happy New Year and everything good that is happening in the world today. I had a smashing Christmas celebration yesterday with the family where I got, well, smashing is the right word because I got absolutely smashed and was advised against operating heavy machinery. Hence, I couldn't operate the camera. So, yes, so thank you for this wonderful journey. I don't know if we'll do another video before the year ends, but you know, if we don't, then consider this a thank you for 2022. Man, it's been absolutely amazing. You guys are awesome. The whiskey tubers all around YouTube have been awesome. Everything has been amazing. It's been a wonderful year for whiskey tasting. We can't complain, and let's get on with it. So there's this 5 whiskey challenge going around. It started off on Reddit, on the Reddit forums, and I believe it was started about roughly a year ago, and it seems to have gotten steam again. And I did a video a while ago about my 5 whiskey challenge, but it was, you know, it was phrased slightly differently. There was slightly different criteria, but I did it back then. But it seems to have been revived and, you know, sort of come back again. And I thought, hey, let me get to it as well, because I think it's an interesting challenge. I mean, knowing just what 5 whiskeys you need in your bar, that would be something really helpful to know. So here, without further ado, are our criteria. Number 1, the Daily Dram. Number 2, the cheap mixer. Number 3, impress your guests. Number 4, for a special occasion. And finally, number 5, something great. Okay. Simple. These are good criteria to have. If you have one of each from each category, then your bar is kind of done, frankly. And so I think this is a good challenge. And a lot of my whiskey tubing friends around the world have been getting in on the challenge, putting forward their views. So go check out their videos as well. In the meantime, this is what we think. Right, our first whiskey is the Daily Dram. But before I begin, I have a caveat. I do not drink every day, and I don't think you should either, because drinking every day is not a good idea. So for me, there's no such thing as a daily dram. But if you were to put a gun to my head and say you have to drink daily and you only have one whiskey to choose from, then I think I've kind of narrowed it down. But there's a few criteria, right? Number 1, it can't be cask strength, so it has to be kind of low strength. So I picked like the 40 to 43% range. That would help me make it palatable. That means I could drink it every day without really taxing my palate. Number 2, it needs to be easy on the pocket, right? I can't spend 200 pounds on a daily drinking whiskey. That's ridiculous. I'm not made of gold or single malt whiskeys. And thirdly, it needs to be delicious, right? Which is super important because, hey, I drink whiskey for the fun of it, not because I'm being forced to. But let's say I was being forced to drink whiskey every day, then I think my daily dram would be the Balvenie 12 Double Wood. Yes, I love a good Balvenie. I think Sir David Stewart, who's now retired or retiring, who is their master blender whiskey maker, and I think the longest serving whiskey icon in the industry. He has this uncanny ability to craft gorgeous noses, right? That's why he's been knighted. Yeah, there's a reason for that. So the Balvenie 12 Double Wood for me is my go-to dram if I'm just sitting down and I'm thinking, man, I need something to take the edge off, something that I can chill with, something that's delicious, something that's familiar, something that's going to make me feel good about myself. Then I will always reach for the Balvenie 12 Double Wood. There are some honorable mentions, you know, some good blended whiskeys. I don't mind maybe like a Chivas 12 or a Chivas 18, maybe even the Johnny Walker Double Black. They're good blended whiskeys that I could see myself kind of drinking every day. Maybe a slightly low strength bourbon like I don't know, like a Maker's Mark or even the Elijah Craig. I'd be happy with those as well. But if push came to shove, then I would go for the Balvenie 12 Double Wood. Well, what do we know about this whiskey? Well, it's been matured for 12 years in bourbon casks. Yes, bottled at 40%. Then an additional 9 months in Oloroso casks, finished off. It is unfortunately chill filtered and it is not natural color, but that's not what we're interested in right now. The challenge very much is what whiskey I would drink every day without judging it. You know, without any harsh criteria attached to it, right? So that's my criteria. And of course, the tipping point is that it's available for 47 pounds. 47 pounds for an age statement whiskey coming from a very renowned distillery from probably one of the greatest whiskey makers that the industry has ever seen, Mr. David Stewart. I think the Balvenie 12 really holds up well. In terms of flavor, we're looking at fruit, honey, vanilla, nuts, cinnamon, and that touch of oak, which I think works beautifully well with the spirit, and you know, making it overall not only a delicious whiskey, an affordable whiskey, and a palatable whiskey. So for me, it checks all the boxes. My daily dram, if I was to drink daily, which I don't, and neither should you, please drink responsibly, would be the Balvenie 12 Double Wood. Whiskey number 2 is the cheap mixer, and for that I don't even have to give you a preamble. For that, it will always be the Jameson. Simple. This whiskey is a great whiskey. It is cheap. It is fairly low strength, and it's quite tasty as well. Quite much. I mean, I know I sound like I'm describing the Balvenie 12 Double Wood, but obviously the Balvenie 12 Double Wood is far more complex as a single malt whiskey. This Jameson is, of course, a blended whiskey. It's a mix of pot still and grain whiskey, made obviously in Ireland. It's an Irish whiskey for those of you who don't know. You should be knowing this already. And I think, you know, as a cheap mixer, it is still a wonderful, cracking whiskey. I even drink it on its own, by the way, you know, so it's a really good dram. However, it's available for just 24 pounds. Wow, that's a killer deal. So what do we know about it? It's bottled at 40% ABV. It's a mix of pot still and grain whiskey. Like I said, it's triple distilled. And it's a mix of bourbon and sherry barrels, and available to you for a rather decent price of just 24 pounds. So yeah, I don't mind using this whiskey to make my cocktails, to maybe drink with a couple of big fat ice cubes. It just, you know, I think it's an all-round whiskey. I think it's a very flexible, adaptable whiskey, and it works in very different environments. I've had it straight, I've had it in a cocktail, I've had it with some water, I think maybe even a touch of soda. So you know what? This whiskey adapts quite well to different types of mixers, and at 24 pounds, you don't feel guilty diluting it with all this other shit. It has a lovely flavor profile. It's mellow, it's sweet, it has vanilla, it has lavender, it has light honey, and a touch of spicy oak. Works beautifully. So if you were going to put a gun to my head and say, name me a cheap mixing whiskey, then 100% I would go for the Jameson every single time. Not because it's just cheap, but because it's a damn fine whiskey. Whiskey number 3 is impress your guests. And I thought long and hard about this one, right? Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, I have 3 types of guests. Guest number 1, the newbie who will drink anything and be impressed with it. I love those kind of guests because, you know, it takes the pressure away from me. Guest number 2 are my close friends who know a little bit about whiskey, know what they want to drink, but they're not nerds like me, right? They're pretty hard to impress. So keeping that in mind, and then we have guests number 3, which are my whiskey club guys who know everything about whiskey. They know as much as I do. So to impress them is even harder. That means they're looking for, you know, really unusual flavors, unusual types of whiskeys. So if a whiskey was to please all these 3 types of guests that I get, then kind of one springs to mind. And before I tell you, I could have easily, selected just an expensive whiskey, right? I thought about the Lafroig 25, the Balvenie 15, the 1409, 1408, 1408, 1401. What? 1401. I'm losing my mind. It's Christmas. Please forgive me. I could have just gone for an expensive whiskey, and I think it would have been acceptable. But I want to offer something that is quite unusual yet very, very tasty, and it almost made it as my whiskey of the year. And I'm talking about the Paul John Select Cask Oloroso Sherry Matured Whiskey. I can't tell you, man, how good this whiskey is. It is, when I first drank it, I was like, whoa, this is crazy good, right? And the best part is I always give it blind to my guests, and I'm like, okay, guess. And they're like, oh, is this a Highland whiskey? Is this a Speyside whiskey? Is this an Australian whiskey? Is this a Taiwanese whiskey? And I'm like, no, it's an Indian whiskey, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It's bottled at 48% ABV. It is, of course, a single malt from Goa, India, which is in the south of India. It's matured 100% in Oloroso cask. It is non-chill filtered. It is natural color, which is fantastic, and it's available to you for £75. So I think a very decent offering, maybe slightly on the higher price for it to be a non-age statement whiskey and an Indian whiskey. But you know what? I think it's worth the money, because when I drank it, it blew my socks off. Like, it had flavors of dark figs, sultanas, rum toffee, butterscotch, treacle, and that tobacco leaf right at the end. And the reason I think this is an impress your guest whiskey is because people don't expect it. Like, whoever I've given this whiskey to, I've given it to them blind, and when they drink it, they're like, no way this is an Indian whiskey. And I'm like, yep, this is an Indian whiskey. And when they drink it, they're like, dude, this is one of the best whiskeys we've ever had. So whether it's a newbie, whether it's a well-seasoned guy, or whether it's a connoisseur, you give them a whiskey like this, and you tell them about, how unusual it is, blow their minds. So yeah, so for me, the Paul John Select Cask Oloroso expression is my impress your guest whiskey. Whiskey number 4 is for a special occasion whiskey. Now, I could have, just said, hey, let's go for the Cruise Sour 50 if you really want a special occasion whiskey. But I decided to keep it under 200 pounds because otherwise it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, of course it doesn't. I mean, I could have also said the Yamazaki 25 or the Macallan 50 or whatever, right? And it wouldn't have made sense. So I decided to keep it under 200 pounds. And again, many good options in there, but I thought for 200 pounds or less, I thought my pick should be the Glengoyne 21 years old. Yeah, the Glengoyne 21 years old, bottled at 43% ABV, a mix of first and second fill Oloroso cask. It is non-chill filtered, it is natural color, and available for 170 pounds. Now, why do I think that this is a special occasion whiskey? And I'll tell you, I have this affinity, this nostalgic bond with Glengoyne because the 21 was one of the first whiskeys that I ever bought, and I remember, and I was so lucky having bought that whiskey that when I drank it, I was like, oh my god, is this what whiskey tastes like? And I'm so glad it was a Glengoyne 21 because I could have got my hands on some shit whiskey and never embarked on my career as a whiskey drinker. But the Glengoyne 21, along with the Balvenie 17 Sherry Oak, sadly not available anymore. But the Glengoyne 21 it was just so good that I was like, oh my god, I'm going to be drinking whiskey for the rest of my life. I know this is a good whiskey as a special occasion whiskey because it doesn't break the bank at 170 pounds. It has all the good flavors, it's easily available, and it's not really that cheap either, you know what I'm saying? So it has, I think it has all the pedigree of a cracking whiskey, nice flavors of bananas, orange zest, dried fruits, dark chocolates, raisin, and black tea right at the end. So, beautifully constructed, just a wonderful dram. And I wouldn't mind bringing this out on a special occasion and sharing it with my friends and going, here's the Glengoyne 21. Not just because it's a cracking dram, but also because I have I have a history with this particular whiskey, and for me that makes it special. And I'd bring it out on any special occasion. And last but not the least, a something great whiskey. And I think this is fairly clear cut. I think the something great whiskey should be my whiskey of the year. And in this case, it's the Lechek 10. It's just my whiskey of the year. Like I said, just wonderfully constructed. Everything that I look for in a whiskey is there. It's oily, it's complex, it's peated, it packs a punch, it's affordable. It's easily available, and it's just fantastic. It's a fantastic dram, right? It's bottled at 46.3% ABV, distilled at the Tobermory distillery, made entirely from first fill bourbon barrels. It is non-chill filtered, no coloring added, and available to you for 42 pounds. That's it, just 42 pounds. So my something great is probably the most affordable whiskey on this list, given all the pedigree, of course. So amazing flavors. If you haven't tried it, I think you should. If you want to go see my whiskey of the year video, it'll be here somewhere. I'll throw up a link, so please do check it out once we're done, or down in the description below. And lovely flavors of soft peat, dates, dark chocolate, white pepper, pine oil, and charred oak. So just from the sound of that, it sounds so complex, and believe me, when you drink it, it is extremely complex. So yes, something great. One of the great whiskeys that's currently doing the rounds is the Lechek 10, and my favorite whiskey of the year. So there you go. So there you go. That's my list. Those are my 5 whiskeys. That's my 5 whiskey challenge answered. And I'd like to nominate my good friend Whiskey Quest, Antonio, to do this challenge. Next, I'll let him know that he's on the spot and that he has to put out a video on his 5 whiskey challenge. And yeah, that's it, man. That's it from me. Merry Christmas once again. Happy New Year if we don't meet before that. I hope you have an amazing festive and holiday season. It's been a great year so far. Thanks to every single one of you who watched, who subscribed, who liked, who commented, who shared, everything, who supported me on Patreon, who supported me on the YouTube membership channel. Just everybody, I'm eternally grateful, and I can keep going on and on and on and on and on, but I don't want to, and I'm going to sign off now because, there's never really a good way to sign off other than, hey, I'm the Malt Activist. Until next time, peace.